Salam sejahtera semua pelajar. Okey, pada minggu ini kita akan belajar tentang literature review ya, ataupun dalam bahasa Melayu ulasan perpustakaan. Jadi sebelum kita akan pergi lanjut pada tutorial kita pada hari ini, saya bagi sedikit perkenal introduction. So dalam penyediaan literature review ya, dia ada 7 simple steps yang perlu dilaksanakan untuk melaksanakan penulisan literature review. Yang pertama iaitu define the scope. Kedua, search for relevant literature. Ketiga, evaluate sources. Keempat, organize and summarize. Kelima adalah identify themes, debates and gaps ya. Dan yang keenam, create an outline. Dan yang ketujuh adalah write your literature review. Kita akan lebih memahami dalam kita melaksanakan tutorial ini ya. Dan pada hari ini juga kita juga akan belajar menggunakan satu tools untuk kita dapat menyimpan dan juga dapat menggunakan untuk menjalankan penyediaan literature review masing-masing ya, yaitu penggunaan perisian Zotero ya. Nanti kita akan lihat ya. Dan seterusnya adalah literature review outline ya. Apakah definition? So the definition, a literature review outline is a structured plan that organizes key points, sources and theme for reviewing existing research on a topic lah. Pada hari itu pelajar telah pun menyediakan title dan topik masing-masing ya. Jadi saya percaya semua mungkin tahu ya apakah research interest topik ya masing-masing. Okey. Dan nanti kita akan coba install di laptop masing-masing Zotero ya. Kita boleh dapatkan perisian Zotero daripada https www.zotero.org/download ya. Dan dia akan keluar seperti yang ada dalam inilah. Dan anda dihendaki untuk mendownload ya Zotero for Windows, dan juga seterusnya install Chrome connector ya yang ada di sebelah kanan ni. So dua-duanya perlu dibuat. Okey, untuk tutorial saya akan teruskan kepada tutorial kita. So tutorial 4, literature review ya. So a chapter in your FYP proposal or thesis. So usually known as the topic in your chapter 2 ya. Kita panggil saja perkataan chapter 2 atau chapter 2 atau bab 2 dalam FYP research proposal or in dissertation ya, thesis. Kita akan kenali dia sebagai literature review ya, ataupun dalam bahasa Melayu ulasan perpustakaan. Why we need to write a literature review ya? So a literature review is a final in final year projects FYP research proposal is a critical component that serves to contextualize the research question and objective. Okay, so dalam chapter 1, dalam kita punya research proposal, kita ada bab introduction yang terdiri daripada research question dan juga objectives. So dalam bab 2 atau chapter 2, kita harus ada literature review ya. So it systematically analyze and synthesize relevant academic writing, providing a comprehensive overview of the current state of research on a chosen topic. Jadi apa-apa sahaja yang berkaitan dengan topik yang kita interest itu, kita haruslah mencari berkaitan dia ataupun relevansi dia melalui past study, academic writings, or journals ya. And sometimes we can also find it in a books ya. Topik-topik yang mungkin related atau berkaitan dengan topik yang kita sedang kajikan atau kita sedang buat kajian ya. So the purpose of literature review, the primary purpose of literature review included firstly contextualization ya. It situates your research within a broader academic discourse, demonstrating how your question relate to previous study and highlight their relevance. Meaning, apa-apa sahaja previous study yang related to your study. Let's say your study is under more on hydrology or forest hydrology. Then you should see or find out previous study that related to forest hydrology as example ya. And kedua, number 2 is identification of gaps. By reviewing existing literature, you can identify gaps in knowledge that your research aim to address, thus justifying the need for your study. Perkataan gaps di sini bermaksud apa-apa sahaja yang mungkin ada keperluan ya untuk kita mengisi kekosongan ya, gaps itu. Contohlah dalam kajian tadi, forest hydrology. So apakah gaps dia yang mungkin kita rasa perlu dalam kajian kita yang boleh connected ataupun boleh berkaitan dengan kajian yang akan kita buat tersebut ya. Gaps ya, keperluan untuk kita fill in the gaps ya, apa-apa sahaja yang topik yang related ya. And the third one will be theoretical framework. The review help in developing a theoretical framework ya. Theoretical framework is very important. It can be used in our methodology ya. Kita boleh gunakan theoretical framework ini sebagai contoh teori-teori yang pernah kita dengar ya, yang boleh kita gunakan sebagai backup kita punya study ya. Kalau kita mengkaji tentang forest management, then the theoretical framework can be sustainable forest management ya. How can sustainable forest management ataupun SFM can be used as a theoretical framework ya in our study. Maybe in SFM kita dapat membaca tentang RIL, reduce impact logging, and also direction failing and so forth. Ini adalah merupakan theoretical framework ya yang boleh kita gunakan. And the last one will be critical evaluation. It provides an opportunity to critically assess and synthesize findings from various sources, rather than merely summarizing them. This analysis should lead to insight about the evolution of throughout in your field. kita boleh melaksanakan analisis secara kritikal daripada kajian-kajian yang lepas yang mungkin related kepada studi kita. Kemungkinan kajian ini yang hampir serupa dengan kajian kita di Malaysia, di negara lain ya, berada di tempat yang lain. Mungkin di negara luar, kita boleh gunakan structure kajian mereka itu. We can critical evaluate their study that we can incorporate dalam kajian kita ya. Okay, how to write a literature review? A well-structured literature review typically includes, the first one will be introduction. Introduction is very important ya. Sebelum kita memulakan penulisan literature, kita harus memberikan pengenalan atau umum tentang topik yang kita akan laksanakan. To write their review in its significance ya. And the second one will be the main body. Selepas introduction, general introduction tadi, kita akan menulis the main body. So the main body should consist organizing thematically or methodologically. This section analyze key studies, identify trend, and discuss its methodologies. Yeah. And it should not merely list sources but synthesize and critique them ya. Maksud di sini bukan kita mengkritik, tetapi kita coba highlightkan how we can synthesize apa yang kita boleh dapat daripada kajian-kajian yang lepas ini yang mungkin dapat digunakan dalam kajian ini kita ya. Dan yang ketiga adalah conclusion, summarize the main finding from the literature. Reiterates the gaps identified ya. Kita coba summarize. Dan yang paling penting dan tidak harus dilupakan dalam setiap penulisan literature review, kita harus ada citation or footnotes ya, that can lead to bibliography ataupun reference yang berada di bahagian belakang tesis kita ataupun FYP proposal ya. So literature should not only simply list and summarize sources, but it should analyze and synthesize them and present a coherent agreement ya. Dan juga we can cite a citation di mana kita dapatkan sumber tersebut ya. Kita boleh letak surname mereka, apakah nama yang penulis, dan juga meletakkan sumber dia daripada tahun berapa dia telah dipublish dan sebagainya ya. So from this learning outcome from our tutorial, saya percaya pelajar akan dapat memahami what is literature review, dan kedua adalah how to organize a literature review using a software like Zotero. Okay, so the task, download your Zotero, follow the video instruction on how to store and prepare for your literature review using Zotero as a tool. Dan student must draft or write at least 2 or 3 subtopics for your FYP research proposal ya. That is your task. Okay. Jadi dalam kaedah kita hari ini, saya ada memasukkan dalam ITEL. Sila coba lihat dalam ITEL nanti tutorial kita tersebut ya. Jadi sebentar selepas ini saya akan tunjukkan bagaimana cara untuk kita membuka Zotero dan juga memasukkan literature review yang related kepada kajian kita. Okay, so kita akan berjumpa pada part kedua nanti. Okay, sekian. Oke, setelah kita download Zotero, kita akan dapat nampak dalam desktop kita ada apa nih, startup bagi Zotero ya, seperti yang sebelah kiri ini Z ya. Dan bila kita buka tuh, dia akan keluar ya, seperti yang library yang dalam sini ya. Anda boleh lihat di sini. Jadi dalam library ini kamu boleh menambah folder ya, tambahkan folder lah. Contohlah di sini saya ada 4 folder, Park Management Study, Teaching, Urban Forest and Landscape, dan seterusnya adalah Zoology and Wildlife Management. So sekiranya saya ingin membuat research proposal, saya harus buat folder yang lain ya. Contohlah saya akan tambah new collection dan tekan tadi, dan dia akan keluar untitled, dan kamu perlu gantikan saja mengikut kesesuaian lah. Mungkin saya letak sini literature lah, LITERATUR, literature review. Oke, jadi bila kita tekan OK, dia akan keluar ya, literature review, dan dalam di sini dia masih kosong ya, tidak seperti yang lain-lain tuh ya. Contohlah Park Management, saya ada beberapa file telah saya pun upload. Demikian juga untuk Zoology, ada beberapa file. Urban Forestry juga ada seperti ini. Tetapi literature review masih kosong ya. Jadi daripada sini kita akan coba save dan upload daripada sistem. Dan sebentar ini saya akan tunjukkan satu video daripada rakan saya dulu, Dr. Colin, yang telah membuat video tentang Zotero lah. Jadi saya minta Anda ambil perhatian pada video yang Dr. Colin sampaikan nanti ya. Dan selepas ini, selepas Anda melihat semua video ini, silalah buat tutorial Anda, bagaimana Anda mengambil reference Anda ya untuk Zotero, dan bagaimana Anda harus upload ke dalam sistem lah, ke dalam sistem Zotero ini, dan juga bagaimana Anda harus link dia dalam Microsoft Office lah nanti. Oke, so setakat itu dahulu. Saya harap Anda ambil perhatian video yang akan saya sampaikan nanti daripada Dr. Colin. Oke, sekian.
Good morning. So today's tutorial is designed to teach you how to use a reference manager. For this exercise, I will be using Zotero. There are other references managers out there, and you may already be familiar with one. I'm not forcing you to use this one that I use. You can use Mendeley or whatever else you want. But what you do need to take away from this session is that when you're importing the references into your reference manager database, you need to check that they have been imported properly and edit the database to ensure that it's correct. Okay. So because I have multiple papers on the go, I tend to group my references by the theme of the paper. So you can see I've got Zotero up and running, and on the left hand side of the screen there's a whole range of folders which have got references in the folder, okay, for Clydemia, Ficus, Subendemic, Semicarpus, and these are all papers that manuscripts that I am currently writing or have just finished writing. For today's exercise, I'm using a folder called Teaching, and you can see there's nothing here at the moment. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to import the references into our folder. And to do that, all you do is you go to your favorite search engine. So I tend to restrict my search for the literature to Google Scholar, because this pulls in mainly the primary literature, okay, less of websites. Okay, you type in the keywords, and in my case, because it's a paper on an invasive species, Lucina leucophylla, and I put invasive in the keywords as well, and it just throws up a series of references. Okay, for today's exercise, I've just selected oops, it was on the first page, 2 of the references to import from different publishers, because they have a slightly different format when they get brought into your reference manager, and you have to edit them so it's a consistent format. Okay, so one of them is this modeling potential range expansions of the invasive shrub, published in Invasive Plant Science by the publisher Cambridge. And the other is this one, fine scale spatial distribution of seedling establishment of the invasive plant Lucina on islands, published in Weed Research by Wiley Online Library. Okay, so these are the references here. The Oceanic Island one by Wiley up here, and then the modeling its range expansion published by Cambridge Core. To bring them into Zotero, all you do is you right click on the top part of the paper, and then it'll bring up a menu, and you then just choose the Save to Zotero function. Okay, you can import them in different ways. I find that the easiest is following the publisher's format. So in this case, it's the top one, Save to Zotero, and it's listed as Cambridge Core because we're on Cambridge site. Okay, so you just click on that, and it tells you where it's saving it to. In my case, I'm saving it to a specific file for this exercise called teaching. Okay, and it's done the job. It's brought the information in. It hasn't. Yeah. Okay. Then I go to the next one and do exactly the same thing. Wiley, saving. Okay. Okay. And when we go back and check the, oops, I want to get rid of that, the Zotero, you'll now see that there are 2 references listed in the database, in the reference list, okay, reference database. When you look at them, you can see slight differences in how they've been imported. If you look at the Weed Research, it's been imported in what we refer to as sentence case. So the first word is capitalized, and then the scientific name and any proper nouns are capitalized. In the case of the Invasive Plant Science and Management, the one by Cambridge, it's brought it in first letter capitalization format. And if you leave it in that format, it's got the potential to create problems when you come to put your bibliography together later. So what you have to do is you have to manually change it from capitalization to sentence case. So you just change the words, the first letter from a capital to a lowercase in all words that are not proper nouns. Okay, so invasive shrub. Okay. The other thing that's hasn't happened is you should know that scientific names need to be italicized. Okay, and at the moment the scientific name, which is here, is just in normal font. So you need to add the coding to tell it to italicize the this word, okay? And to do that, we just use the more than, the less than, and greater than symbols, okay? So it's just the same as HTML coding, okay? So you go less than, I, and then the more than sign. And all that's doing is it's telling the program that the next few words are in italics. I for italics, B for bold. Okay, these are just general coding bit of codes. Okay, if we just left it like that, the whole of the remaining words would be italicized. So what you have to do is after the end of the species name, you turn off the italicization, and that's the less than backslash I more than sign, okay? And we can copy this code and put it down in the next one, okay? Because that also didn't have italicization on the species name. Just make sure it specifies the start of italicize and then the end of it, okay? The rest of it's correct because it is in the sentence case, okay? The only other thing that you need to do is some journals, some reference styles use the journal abbreviation. So some use the full name, some use the abbreviation. And the reference manager doesn't bring in the abbreviation. Sometimes you'll find something there, but it's not necessarily correct. So what you need to do is you need to find out what the correct abbreviation for a particular journal is. You do that by copying the name of the journal. I find the easiest way of doing it, you can go to there is a database, but I actually find the easiest way is by just going, dropping the name of the journal and then just going journal abbreviation and enter, and it tells me that the actual one is read res, so read research, and we just drop that here, and then we go and do it for the second one, which is this invasive plant species. You copy it, you paste it into the first bit here, okay, and copy that again, and then drop it into the abbreviation. You should also check that the names have been brought in properly, that the year is brought in properly, because any incorrect information in your database will be reflected in your reference list for your thesis or your publication or whatever it is you're using it for, okay? Once you've got everything in the correct format, then you shouldn't have any problems later on, okay? So it's worthwhile spending a bit of time making sure your data set, your database is correct, okay? Generally what I find is if you're copying from a publisher and using their format, so the first one of those options, the changes that you have to make are relatively minor. Adding in the journal abbreviation and then changing first word capitalization to sentence case and adding in italics. That's generally it. If you're bringing it in from a third party, such as JSTOR, then what often happens is the whole of the title may be capitalized, all of the names will be capitalized, and when you go to put your reference list together, Zotero doesn't change from all caps to sentence case, okay? It'll just take it as it is, and so you'll have different formats in your reference list. So you need to change it. We change it to sentence case because if the format that you're following requires first word capitalization or all cap, then Zotero can handle that. It's in the citation language style, the CLS file. that's associated with each of the different citation styles. It tells it whether the title of the journal should be sentence case, first word cap, or all caps, okay? And it will change from sentence case to those other two styles, but what it can't do is it can't change from first word cap to sentence case, okay? So this is something you've got to be aware of. Otherwise, you'll have errors in your reference list. It's not a big issue for a thesis. Well, it's not a major issue. We're not going to fail you on your thesis because of your reference style. We'll just tell you to go and redo it. If you are doing this as a postgraduate student and you submit your work to a journal and not following their reference styles, the editors will automatically send it back to you and tell you to redo it. So it's just wasting your time. You need to do this properly. Okay, so once we've got the database, how do we use it? So, oops, let's get rid of that. Sorry, I was meant to delete this previously. This was a trial. Okay, so I wrote some text for the paper that I'm thinking about writing, about to start writing. And the text is just modeling the change in distribution of leucine is critical to understanding its potential spread. Okay, and the citation for this is that one I brought in about modeling leucina's spread. Okay, if we go back to my reference list, it's this one here, potential range expansion of invasive species. Okay, and it's you can see the author's name here, or we could bring it in by its title. So all you do in Zotero is you get Zotero, you download it, you install it on your computer, and you get the link, the adding to Word a little function. Okay, so it adds it to the top bar of your Word. Okay, so when you want to use it, you open Word, you open your Zotero database, it needs to be on, you write your text, and then you just add the citation. Okay, and you're doing it by the author's name. I could have just typed the species we're after, or I could have just written modeling. Any way in which it finds you want to search for your references, you then click on it and you enter. Okay, and it's brought it in the format that we have specified. I can't remember what format we've specified for this. Okay, and you do this for the rest of your manuscript or your thesis, and then later on you just add the bibliography at the reference section, and what it does is it adds all of the information for that paper in the format that you've requested. So this is APA, I remember rightly, and so it's got it in sentence case. It brings in the complete journal title. The year is between the authors and the journal title. Okay. For your thesis, you're going to follow the UMS format, which is, I think, APA, but just check on that. Okay. If you're doing a scientific publication, there's a chance that your paper you'll write it for one journal, it may get rejected, and then you have to reformat it. And normally reformatting the references is a really tiresome bit of work. Okay, a reference manager saves you a lot of time, because if you want to change for the format, all you do is, this was APA style, say we got rejected by that journal, we then decide that we're going for a different journal. This is Forest, which is published by MDPI. We just select the referencing style, and the MDPI journals, instead of putting the author's name, they put a number for the reference in the order they're cited, and then what you'll find in the bibliography has been changed. It's been changed now it's using the abbreviated title. The year is in bold, and it's actually after the journal title rather than between the author's names and the title of the journal, or the title of the manuscript. The manuscript title is now in what we refer to as first word capitalization. You need to change this a little bit because Zotero can't tell that the species name here should be non-capped, okay? So even though it's brought generally in the correct format, you still need to edit it a bit, okay? And you can do this. Say we submitted it to Forest and it got rejected, we can then tukar to another journal format, Journal of Plant Ecology. And what you see is it changes it to that journal format, okay? And it's a very quick way of changing references, as long as your underlying database is correct. If your underlying database has got errors, then the reference list is going to have errors, okay? So that's it for this morning's exercise.